Ontario has boreal and other forests like few places on Earth. And this summer, if months of lockdown and social distancing isn't reason enough to visit them, our Northwestern Ontario Hub journalist Charnel Anderson has one more. It's something called forest bathing. She joins us now from Red Rock on the north shore of Lake Superior to explain. Hi, Charnel.
Hi, Jan.
All right, so from what I understand, there's no showers or bathtubs or nudity involved in forest bathing. What exactly is this concept?
Yeah, no showers, no bathtubs, though it is, a really adaptable practice. So I think clothing is really up to you. So forest bathing, also known as forest therapy or Shinrin-Yoku, is really just about kind of going into nature and experiencing it mindfully. So, like all mindfulness practices, the idea is to engage all five of your senses, taste, touch, smell, sight, hearing. I think that's all of them. And so you do this taking your time. It's really a slow practice. It's not like going into the forest and going on a hike. In fact, you may not even walk very far, but the idea is really just to be aware of your senses. So you're kind of, you're feeling the sun on your skin, maybe the humidity in the air, your feet on the earth, that kind of thing. And as I mentioned, so it's a flexible practice, and you can do this with or without a guide. And if you opt for a guide, they'll kind of help direct you, and they may use what's called invitations. So those are kind of verbal suggestions to help you connect into the situation. But as I said, you can also do it alone. And you can really do it anywhere that there's some kind of greenery. So, as the name suggests, a forest is a good place to do this. But you can also do it in a park. You can go out into your backyard, do it underneath a tree, and you can even do it inside. So, if you're sitting by a window that kind of overlooks a natural green spot, you can even do it, surrounded by house plants. And, you may not get the same benefits as you would going out into the forest, but it's still a beneficial practice.
So let's talk about the history. This isn't necessarily a fairly old concept, right?
Yeah, no. So forest bathing is based on a Japanese practice called Shinrin-Yoku, and so this practice was developed in Japan in the 1980s as kind of a preventative healthcare measure, and it actually went on to become part of Japan's national health program. In fact, Shinrin-Yoku as a term was coined by the Japanese Department of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries in 1982. And since that time, there's been a lot of research done on the subject, which points to positive benefits, both physiologically and psychologically. So perhaps it's no wonder that this kind of thing has caught on in the West.
Now, obviously, we're in a pandemic. A lot of people are going outside, but I understand there's actual science behind, benefits to communing with trees, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's a plethora of research that's been done on the subject. So some research suggests that this practice of forest bathing can help lower cortisol, which is the stress hormone that can lead to all kinds of things like high blood pressure and heart disease. Research suggests that forest bathing can improve your immune function. So I don't know if you know this, Jan, but trees emit what's called phytoncides, and it's essentially like tree essential oils. So when you cut into an onion, you get that strong onion smell. Those are phytoncides.
Right.
And so trees emit those as well. And they have an effect on immune system cells called natural killer cells. And so those fight viruses and cancer. And so in one study, the number and activity of those immune cells, the natural killers, actually rose in people who spent 3 days and 2 nights in the forest. And those benefits actually lasted for over a month after they took that trip. Forest bathing also has benefits, mental health benefits. So there's therapeutic effects on anxiety and depression, ADHD, excuse me, ADHD even, because there's a mental relaxation component to this. There's also therapeutic effects on what researchers have called human feelings of awe. So those are feelings like gratitude and selflessness. Forest bathing can kind of increase those. And there's just one more study I want to mention quickly. So it's called forest bathing, but as I mentioned, you can do this indoors. And so there was one small study done decades ago on patients who were recovering from gallbladder surgery. And so some of those patients were in a room with a window that was looking outside, outdoors, and other patients were in a room with a window that was facing a brick wall. And so the patients who in the rooms with the windows looking outdoors, they actually recovered quicker and they required less um, less powerful pain medication compared to the patients who were looking at the brick wall.
Very interesting stuff. Now, you had mentioned that, this can be done inside or out, but if someone is trying to maybe make it the best experience, is there an ideal location to practice this? Do you need to be in the wilderness or a remote area, or does an urban location work as well?
Yeah, I mean, so the nice thing about this practice is that it is really accessible. You can do it inside, you can do it outside, you can do it with a guide, you can do it by yourself. So inside, you may not get the full benefits of the phytoncides, like the tree essential oils that help boost immune function, but you still will get the mental health benefits of a mindfulness practice. As far as I know, here in Northwestern Ontario, there aren't any Shinrin-Yoku specific trails that have been developed, but we're on the southern edge of the boreal forest here, so there's lots of lots of opportunities, lots of trails that you can go out and try this on. However, in southern Ontario, actually, in 2018, the city of Markham established 4 Shinrin-Yoku specific trails, and as far as I know, they occasionally offer free guided walks for people. But at the end of the day, really, it's you don't need a designated trail. You don't need a guide to do this. You have everything you need right now. You can go to a park, go sit in your backyard, and just kind of soak it all in.
You had mentioned guides off the top. Is there any benefits in, say, joining a guided practice or even a group?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, anyone can go outside at any time, right? But if you're like me, sometimes I find it hard to make the time to do this and to commit to it, even though I know it'll make me feel better. So I think, if you're like that, if you're like me, a guide would be beneficial to kind of take you through the process. And, it also forces you to commit to it. I think a guide would also be useful for people who may not be familiar with forest therapy or mindfulness practices, or someone who just may not be comfortable going out into the forest by themselves. And so there are a number of different organizations that train and certify forest therapy guides. There's actually a Canadian organization called the Global Institute of Forest Therapy. And so they train guides all across Canada. In fact, they're doing a training in Thunder Bay. Well, they have a training planned in Thunder Bay in September. But really, there's guides all across Ontario. You can just Google it if you're interested.
Of course, we're still in a pandemic. Why do you think it's important to be outside and get exercise?
Yeah, as you said, we're in a pandemic. And so what's interesting about this practice is that it was developed in the 1980s, right? And that's before the internet, before cell phones, before the pandemic. Um, all these things that kind of keep us inside more. Um, and I think forest bathing, forest therapy is somewhat of an antidote to that. It's really, I think the therapeutic part of it comes from allowing us to reconnect with the natural world that, for much of humanity, humans spent most of our time outdoors. So it's nice to kind of go back to that and reconnect with nature.
Some really great stuff. Thank you so much, Charnel.
The agenda in the summer with Namkiwanuka is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.